We're here today to tell you the story behind Australian dairy products that you find on your shelves, in your restaurants, and as ingredients in your products in Singapore and across Southeast Asia. The story is more than just cows. It's the people, the places, and the dreams for the future of our farmers, the processes of our milk, and the many people who invest their knowledge and experience within the industry. You'll see the tagline here, "Thrive Together with Australian Dairy." And this is how we see our relationship with you, our international partners. We are proud of our product, and we believe that by working together, we will be able to grow our businesses and our families, all thriving together towards a healthier world. This is a long-term commitment, a relationship not just for the present, but for many years to come. So you'll see that reflected in our messages today and in what is important to us in the Australian dairy industry. So first, a few figures about our industry size. Our dairy industry is worth a lot to Australia. It's $4.7 billion worth at the farm gate. And that comes from 1.38 million cows, quite a large herd size, number of cows there in Australia. So, and this workforce, 37,400 people are involved in the dairy industry. And 32% of the milk that we produce is exported. So our export markets are very important to us, to our industry and to the farmers, the livelihood of our farmers here in Australia. And if we look a little bit closer now at where the milk is going from Australia, more than 88% of our exported product goes to Asia. And our largest market is Greater China, and that's followed by Southeast Asia and Japan. And within Southeast Asia, we have some really big separate markets. Obviously, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore are all big markets in themselves as well. Our total value of exports is $3.4 billion. And if we break that down by a couple of our products, that's 158,000 tonnes of cheese exported to 55 countries and 245 million litres of milk that is exported. So if we have a look now at some of the, a little bit closer at what we're exporting to Southeast Asia, we can look at it either by value or volume, and our top markets or our biggest markets change just a little bit depending on how you look at it. So if we look at it by value, you'll see here that Indonesia, Malaysia and Singapore are the bigger markets for us, with the others closely following. But if we change to volume, then we do get Singapore shooting up there, and also Malaysia as well there, and Indonesia. But the difference that we're seeing here is the kind of products that we're sending there. So for Singapore, we're doing a lot of just liquid milk. So obviously the volume is greater there. And if we have a closer look at the kind of products that we are exporting, so if we look at cheese, you'll see there that Malaysia and the Philippines are quite big markets for us. For milk, as I was saying, Singapore and Malaysia are quite big. And for the mixtures, skim milk powder and whey powder, you'll see that Indonesia is quite a big market for those products for us. Sorry. So our focus here for Australian dairy, we do have many things that are important to us, but if I boil it down to the three most important for us, it is food safety and quality, sustainability and relationships. And just looking at that quote there, so whether it is a friendship or a relationship, all of these bonds are built on trust, and without it, you have nothing. And I think this is a really important quote in the trade space, where it is so important to be able to trust the people you are dealing with, to know your product is in safe hands, and that your end consumers are happy with the product. So food safety, drilling down a little bit into the three top focus areas there that I spoke about. Food safety, our standards here are built all together, not just top down from government, but government agencies, industry groups and consumers have all worked together to create food safety standards that really suit our unique environment. And these standards are based on Codex Alimentarius, the internationally accepted standards. And the really unique thing about Australian food safety is that the standards are across the whole supply chain. So we're not talking just in the manufacturing stage, but really from where it starts pre-farm. So the kind of inputs that come onto farm, the kind of foods, food for the cows, the water that comes on, chemicals, anything that comes onto the farm. This is all regulated as part of the supply chain and checked by government agencies. And we do realise that in these modern times, things move very quickly. So we really have to keep an eye out on ways we can keep improving our systems and new ways to detect really early on problems that might be occurring in the supply chain so that we can quickly mitigate that and really keep on top of food safety. So constantly changing for us there. Another important focus for us is sustainability. So Australia has already had the Australian Dairy Sustainability Framework for 10 years now, and we're celebrating 10 years of this framework. And in this framework, we really look at each aspect of sustainability and make promises and really pledge to change things for the future. There are 4 pillars within the sustainability framework. And the first one there being enhancing livelihoods. So this is really a vibrant industry is important to us, where our farmers are really thriving within the industry. And the last survey that we did showed that 82% of farmers are confident about the future of their business, which is great news for us and for the future. The second aspect is improving well-being, so looking at dairy as an important nutrient in our diet, the nutritional value of dairy. So some of the research that we've done a fractures trial research, and that has shown that dairy in the elderly actually reduces falls by 11% and fractures by 33%. So that's a really solid example of why dairy is really important for health. Another research project that we've done is Nutrient-Rich Food Index, and this ranks foods based on their nutritional composition. So milk was found to have really high nutritional value per dollar, and while plant-based beverages have a lower impact on the environment, dairy does really come up top on the amount of nutrient in the product. So best care for animals is another important pillar of sustainability. We've been running the animal husbandry survey since 2005, and that really pinpoints aspects of welfare that we need to look at. So we look at where we are now and we look at where we want to be in the future, and we continually try to improve the welfare of our animals. The fourth pillar there is reducing the environmental impact. So we're committed to reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 30% by 2030. And we've already reduced that since when we first started 10 years ago by 25.5%. So there's been some real gains there in the industry. And another important focus for Australia is relationships. So we have a really long history, both domestically and internationally, with dairy. So for example, the Bega Penrith site, they've been making milk products there for over 100 years. And there's even a staff member there who's been working there for 45 years, which is very impressive. Another example is Norco. They've been making farm fresh milk to domestic and international markets for over 100 years. Internationally, we have some really strong relationships that we've had for many years now. A good example is KCG. So KCG started the Alauri butter brand in Thailand in 1972, and they've built that brand up into a really amazing brand there in Thailand. And we're really proud to still see the Australian kangaroo on the packaging there. So we continue to keep building relationships in our markets. We have what we call the scholarship program that's been running for over 20 years in Northern Asia and over 7 years in Southeast Asia. And from this program, we have over 850 alumni. So those are people that we keep in contact with and continue to share knowledge in the market. We also hear from Australia, come over to your markets. We try to come every year, depending on COVID, of course, and continue to build these relationships, have seminars, workshops, and learn together. And we do have large and small manufacturers and continue to work together to make a product that is suited to each of your markets. So I'll just leave you today with a short video. This is a real snapshot of our industry here in Australia, so hope you enjoy it.
Australia is home to some of the best dairy products in the world. And for generations, our diverse dairy industry has been working together, delivering those products to you, our global partners, helping you thrive so we can all thrive together. Across Australia, our naturally rich soils bathed in sunlight, nourished by clean waters and ocean breeze, support our many dairy regions, stretching far and wide, from our sunny east coast to rich southern lands and beyond to our west. Our natural abundance and diversity together creates a place like no other. And it's this place, together with our innovative processes and world-class food safety, that creates the most delicious fresh milk, natural cheese, creamy yogurts, and nutritious dairy ingredients for a healthier world. Whatever your needs are, providing premium dairy solutions is where we thrive most. Our diverse industry of farms and processors big and small work together in true Australian spirit, innovating with you, tailoring for you to deliver just what you need. Delivering the sustainable dairy you need now and into the long term is how we'll both continue to thrive. So we're innovating across our supply chain to evolve how we protect our environment, care for our animals, and invest in a bright future. And in that future, we see Australian dairy working together, evolving together, and creating success together with our global partners, delivering the highest quality dairy all around the world. That's how we thrive together.
I'm pleased to talk to you now about our dairy farms in Australia. We have over 5,000 registered dairy farms across 8 dairying regions in Australia. And you can see from the map that there's a high concentration of dairy farms along the eastern and the southern parts of Australia, stretching from Queensland down through New South Wales to Victoria, Tasmania, across to South Australia, and some in Western Australia as well. We have diverse milking systems in each of the regions as our dairy farmers adapt to the different environments. So they use herringbone milking systems or rotary or robotic milking systems, depending on where they are. Our dairy farmers make a huge contribution to our regional areas. And this is a photo of the Griffin family. Stuart and his family have been on their dairy farm for over 100 years. And we're very proud to see the dairy farms passed down generation to generation. Most of our dairy farms are operated by family businesses and have a herd size of around 300 cows. On this slide, you can see that we're very pleased with the high level of confidence amongst our dairy farmers at the moment. And we know they're confident because we did an annual survey recently, and you can see 82% of farmers said that they're confident about the future of their dairy business. And this is because they've had a couple of good seasons and have been able to make a profit, which is really good, and it's positive for the future of our dairy industry. Many of the farmers have plans to expand, and so we hope that this translates into increased milk production in the future. Let me talk a little bit about our innovative ideas and systems in our dairy farming industry. As the previous speaker mentioned, we have a very strong track record of sustainability in the dairy industry in Australia. And here are some examples of the sorts of things we're doing to reduce the impact on the environment and to introduce innovation and technology. The dairy feed-based system is a system where we feed our cows efficiently to reduce wastage. The smarter irrigation for profit is about not letting the water evaporate and being very careful about how we manage it. Water's a really important resource for our dairy farmers. With Dairy Bio, we're getting better outcomes for forage and for cows by using genetic technologies. And at Ellenbank, which is one of our smart farms, we've got a target to become carbon neutral by 2030. Bannister Downs is a great example of some really innovative farming systems where they demonstrate care for cows, particularly in reducing stress for cows who are not so confident. And Bannister Downs also won an award this year for their innovative packaging around their dairy products. And now a little bit about our processes. So we have a huge range of dairy processes in Australia. In fact, over 100 processing locations. And you can see that our processing facilities are located in the same areas where we're producing our milk. And here we have just a sample of the sorts of processing companies that we have in Australia. We have a range of small processors to very large processors, Australian businesses and some international businesses as well. And this gives us a unique ability to tailor our products for export markets, for Singapore, for across the Southeast Asian region as well. This makes us different to some large exporting countries who don't have the agility to tailor products. And here are some examples of the innovation and sustainability that we really support in our dairy industry. Some concrete examples here of better packaging. Brown's Dairy in Western Australia have introduced a plant-based polyethylene material to improve their packaging and reduce the impact on the environment. Fonterra, at their Tasmania site, has made a huge effort to reduce wasted water. And we know that the dairy processing facilities do need to use a lot of water. At Bega, at their Salisbury manufacturing site, they've achieved their target of zero waste to landfill, and they did that in 2020. So we're really proud to see our processing companies and our dairy farms making a huge effort and commitment to really reduce the impact on the environment and to be sustainable. I'll talk a little bit about our products. But firstly, Australians really love dairy products. And you can see here how much milk we drink, how much cheese, butter and yogurt we like to consume. Cheese is one of our major product streams, and almost 40% of our Australian milk goes into the production of cheese for our domestic market and then also for our export markets. On this slide, we've got the names of some companies that are producing products specifically as ingredients and nutritionals. And this includes skim and whole milk powders and various combinations. It also includes whey products as well. So in Australia, after cheese, the next largest product stream is milk powder, and the majority of that is the skim milk powder, which goes into base powders for nutritionals and also is an important part of ingredients for manufacturing in our export markets as well. And here you can see a range of retail products that are available across Southeast Asia. And I hope that you're familiar with some of the brands. Perhaps you've seen the Farmers Union yogurt, or you might have seen the Lemnos feta cheese. If you haven't seen them, then I hope they're available close to you and that you do have the chance to taste them, because these are the quality products that we are very pleased to be able to export to your markets. We know they're high quality, we know they're healthy, and we hope that you really enjoy them. So the future with Australian dairy. Let me reiterate that the Australian dairy industry is very committed to working in partnership with all our export markets, with all our important customers, and with their important customers, who are the consumers. And so we strive always for the best food safety and for quality. We are always looking for ways to become more sustainable, because we know that sustainable supply is important to your markets, but we also know that we have to reduce the impact on the environment. We have to look for better ways to look after our animals and to keep making improvements. So we are committed to that, and we have a very strong record already. Importantly, we like to focus on relationships. So we're here to provide you with information and with access to our products, and we look forward to your feedback so that we can improve even more. From our farmers to our valued customers around the world, we want everyone to thrive together.
Thank you for having me here today to present to you around the role of dairy in healthy, sustainable diets. Firstly, you only have to turn the TV on to look at the pressure agriculture is under. And it's not just in Australia, it's globally. Globally, agriculture uses 70% of the fresh water, generates 20% of greenhouse gases, uses 33% of our land area and 30% of global energy. But on the flip side, the products we produce feed 100% of us. People want to know how their food they eat is being produced. And the people who produce the food want to keep doing it. Transparency, ethical production, profitability are at the heart of these issues, and it enables both groups to get what they want now and in the future. And this is the crux of sustainability. To that end, Australia has made a promise to provide nutritious foods for a healthier world. Our promise spells out the dairy industry's sustainability commitments to customers, communities, investors, and our own people. The Australian Dairy Sustainability Framework is helping us deliver on the dairy promise. Our dairy promise is underpinned by 4 commitments: to create rewarding livelihoods for our people, nourish consumers with nutritious foods, provide best care for all our animals, and leave the environment in better shape now and into the future. Each year, we publicly report on these commitments via our sustainability framework, which this year is celebrating 10 years. In fact, the dairy industry sustainability framework was the first agriculture whole-of-sector sustainability framework in the world. And since 2012, our framework has continued to evolve as we review and consider new and emerging impacts on people, planet, animal, and our businesses. We are currently reviewing the past, present, and future as we evolve our framework.
Hi, I'm Darryl Hoey from Wonthaggi in Victoria. Agriculture is part of the sustainability agenda, both globally and locally. And food production has been talked about at international meetings around climate, biodiversity and food. Whatever the sustainability challenge, both now and into the future, I want you to know that Australian farmers and manufacturers are committed and want to be part of the solution.
Turning our attention specifically to sustainable diets, and accordingly to the Food and Agriculture Organisation, the FAO, sustainable diets are not only have low environmental impacts, but they're also healthy, affordable, and acceptable to society. The dairy sector has been identified as playing a role in each of these domains of sustainability. There's a lot of activity happening in Australia and internationally where dietary discussions are expanding beyond nutrition to include environment, sustainability. These include the UN Food System Summit last year, where the world came together to shape a food system fit for the future. Review of dietary guidelines across the countries, including the US, Canada, Brazil, the Netherlands, has been undertaken. And Australia currently is reviewing our own dietary guidelines with a process due to conclude in 2024. Front of pack environmental labelling is also growing interest, and we're seeing what's being explored here in France and the UK. Dairy is still really valued in Australia, and in addition to being trusted, dairy is still an important part of Australian lives. With 98% of households regularly purchasing milk, 82% agreeing it's important to support the dairy industry, and 82% agreeing that dairy is important in the diet. Australians love their dairy and have very strong consumption patterns. But why does this matter? Well, we know that over a third of Australians have changed their eating habits and drinking habits to be more sustainable, with healthy and the environment key influences. Dairy is also being cited as the food people consume less of in order to be more sustainable. All food production has an impact, and when it comes to eating sustainably, there are trade-offs between the environmental impact, nutrition, social, and economic factors. So what can we safely say? Well, we can say we need to reduce our overconsumption. We need to focus on maintaining a healthy weight, limit the consumption of nutrient-poor foods, reduce our food waste, so ensure that we are careful in the way we store and look after our food after we purchase it. And we need to conserve water and energy in the kitchen. It then gets slightly more complex. As we see here on the right, foods with low greenhouse gas emissions are not necessarily healthy. We can see low diet quality, high greenhouse gas, and low diet quality, low greenhouse gas. So we can have diets that are low in quality and low in greenhouse gas. But on the right here, we see a high diet quality, so diets in Australia that are more in line with Australian dietary guidelines and low greenhouse gas emissions. The CSIRO has done some work to look beyond these food and dietary patterns, and they plotted it here for us all to see. And they found that the high quality, low emission diet typically features dairy as a key constituent. That is over 40% lower greenhouse gas emissions compared with the high emissions. Further research shows that discretionary or junk foods contribute excess energy to our intake and excess dietary related emissions. And we can see in the orange bar here, the discretionary foods. So reducing discretionary food intake and eating foods more from the 5 food groups could help address excess energy and food overconsumption, as well as improving our diet quality. We know that environmental sustainability is a lot more than just greenhouse gas emissions. When we look and compare plant-based beverages to milk products, in the middle for water, we can see at the higher end for land, however, we look at these metrics in isolation. So individual metrics don't show the overall environmental impacts. We can see here that in water scarcity, rice has the highest impacts, where almond and whole milks and flavoured milks are in the middle. And we see changes here in the cropland scarcity, with chocolate milk, whole milk and reduced fat having the highest impacts. When we combine these metrics, we're seeing that is being done in research these days, the weighting differs of different metrics against one each other is important to consider, and grouping them together, we see discrepancies within categories. And so then we lose the nutrition story. So let's take a closer look at plant-based beverages. Plant-based foods is a hot topic, and it's being unclear about how healthy or how sustainable these products really are. And we saw that on the previous slide. Looking at the plant-based beverages, we see 30% of Australians say they're consuming these, although most people don't necessarily mean that they are having plant-based and not dairy. We see that only 3% of consumers consume plant-based products only. So most are consuming both. We see on the right here that almond beverages have surpassed soy and as a preferred plant-based choice, followed by coconut, rice, oat. From our October 2020 Trust Tracker survey, we can see the main reason why consumers buy alternatives. So health and taste come out as the top reasons for buying alternatives, with environment and animal rights down below, but definitely increasing. From an overall attitudes perspective, we see significant increases in those that believe that plant-based alternatives, there are good plant-based alternatives to dairy, and alternatives are actually equivalent to cow's milk from a nutrition perspective.
I think dairy alternatives can be helpful for some people, but you have to bear in mind that while some of them may have lower greenhouse gas emissions, they may have higher impacts in other respects, like some of them may have higher water scarcity impacts. From a nutritional perspective, while some of them are fortified with calcium, those diets that contain higher levels of dairy, it's not just that they're benefiting from extra calcium, they're benefiting from a range of nutrients.
Recently, we co-funded some research with the CSIRO, and Dr. Brad Ridout, who's a life cycle analysis and sustainability, undertook this research. The new research developed a nutrient profiling tool which scores common Australian foods for their nutrient density. The tool weights nutrients based on whether they are over or under consumed by the Australian population. So foods high in calcium were scored positively because calcium is under-consumed, where a food containing added sugar was scored negatively because Australians tend to over-consume on added sugar. We examined the nutrient density of fortified and unfortified plant beverages versus milk. And this research also allowed us to compare affordability, so pricing of the products, and the environmental impacts of the different products. It's aiming to allow comparisons on multifaceted, so nutrient and health, affordability and environment, and these to help individuals that make up individuals' food choices and consider these multiple impacts. Overall, the higher the score or position on the bar graph, the better the beverage option fared for that particular index. So on the top here, we have nutrients, and we can see that regular fat, reduced fat, and chocolate flavoured milk came out on top and was the most nutrient-rich products compared to the alternate plant-based alternatives. Again, for affordability, regular and reduced fat milks came out on top, with soy beverages not far behind them. However, when we looked at environmental perspective, we can see that the rice and soy beverages with added calcium scored higher than the dairy products. The research shows a complex story. So although the fortified plant-based beverages had a smaller environmental impact per nutrients, their nutrient density is much lower than milk. So this indicates that there are trade-offs that need to be considered when we're making food swaps. We can see here when we look at the plant-based beverages that water is the main ingredient in all of these beverages. As well as being fortified with many vitamins and minerals, most plant-based beverages contain added ingredients that are included during processing, such as stabilisers, starches, thickeners, emulsifiers, that are in there to improve the texture, the shelf life, and product stability. Some also contain added sugar. And when we look at the nutrient content of the plant-based versus cow's milk, again, we see that dairy, cow's milk, is naturally high in calcium, where all the plant-based beverages are fortified. Milk and soy products provide all the essential amino acids and both contain similar amounts of total protein. However, milk does contain more lecithin than soy, an important nutrient for building and repairing muscles. In regards to price, plant-based beverages are much more expensive when compared to milk. As most plant-based beverages are long life, our home scan data shows that the alternatives are purchased when they're on special in the supermarket. Ultimately, when it comes to nutrient bang for buck, milk is the clear winner. To ensure that dairy foods continue to be recognised as an important part of a healthy, sustainable diet, Dairy Australia has been working to balance the narrative by packaging up and sharing the latest evidence with key opinion leaders.
Now, we all know why it matters to eat healthily, but what about eating sustainably? And why are dairy foods so important? A healthy, sustainable food system considers nutrition, social, cultural and economic factors, and environment. With the support of Australian dairy farmers and processors, the industry has made commitments to a healthy, sustainable food system into the future. Now,
Why key opinion leaders? Although consumers are the end user, we recognise that there's a pyramid of influence that filters down. At the top are our key opinion leaders, academics and policy setters. They're driving the policy, regulation, the national and state guidelines that influence people's choices. This includes the review of the Australian Dietary Guidelines, which I mentioned earlier. Dairy Australia is also working with research institutes to generate science and contribute to the evidence base. Health professionals then translate the policy and science into advice for their patients and the wider community. Health professionals are a key audience for our communication campaigns, and we also leverage them as trusted experts to speak to our consumers. When it comes to communications and engagement to these audience, Dairy Australia is driving a number of initiatives to build trust and support for dairy in a healthy, sustainable diet. We undertook evidence reviews in 2019 and 2021 around dairy's role in a healthy, sustainable diet. And we've brought the insights together in a position paper, which we're sharing with key nutrition and sustainability experts. We've leveraged the themes to come out in the reviews in 2 articles with The Guardian, with Dr. Joe McMillan and Dr. Brad Ritter, as well as a video which I showed you earlier. We invited a series of external stakeholders to a virtual farm tour to immerse them in the farm experience, that farm to plate experience, and share the industry's sustainability credentials. And finally, we've invested in healthy ageing research to increase the dairy intake of older Australians living in aged care facilities. By increasing their dairy intake from 2 to 3.5 serves a day, the research demonstrated they were able to significantly reduce the falls and fractures of these residents, a significant outcome for these people. We know that our consumer audiences are looking for facts, transparency and credible information from trusted experts. To achieve this, we launched a platform called You Ask, We Answer. Launched in 2019, anyone can jump onto the platform and ask a question about dairy, the industry, the products, and how we produce them. We get internal and external subject matter experts to prepare responses, which then get posted online. To date, we've had over 500 questions, with health and animal welfare being the most frequent. The most viewed question in the last 12 months is it true that cows can only produce milk if they've been pregnant? This has been viewed 55,000 times. There are a number of ways that you can connect with us. Visit dairy.com.au/sustainable diets to learn more about dairy's role in a healthy, sustainable diet. You can follow us through your personal or company social platforms and share our posts from our Facebook, Instagram, or our Twitter accounts. And check out the common questions and answers on You Ask, We Answer platform on dairy.com.au. Thank you.